Okay, the next hand we play is probably about 12, 13 hands later, something like that. And our friend Most Blended raises on the button here. And with King Queen, again, I think that my King Queen is certainly ahead of his range for just raising on the button. So my default go-to play would be to three bet here, and I would like to three bet a little more than three times his bet, just because, or his raise, just because to kind of compensate for the fact that I'll be out of position post flop if we play this hand. So I'd like to pop it up to something more than 360, like 375 to 400 in that range. And let's see what I do. Okay, good. 375, and he does call, and in this spot heads up, since I've been the aggressor, I don't I'm not gonna just check and give up here. Versus Asian dude, that was a little different story. I had raised under the gun and he flatted me, so with his range being small mid pairs, suited connectors, um, and I didn't even have a diamond in my hand on that one. There, I just didn't want to invest anything more in it. At this point, I think for him to call me, he could have really any kind of Broadway cards, pairs, connectors, suited aces. There's, that's most likely what he would have. It's a pretty wide range. Obviously, I'm not. There's no way to just narrow it down, and would be foolish to just put him on a specific hand, just based on where we are in the tournament, being so deep so early. So in this case, since I've taken the lead pre-flop, I'm going to go ahead and make a continuation bet, and I make it 560 to go, and he just folds. So we take that one down. Okay, very next hand we have deuces on the button. This is a good spot to have deuces. We like to have our pairs and suited connectors in position, and our hijack player raises to 100, 2.5 times the big blind. So and Most Blended folds. Now here, a lot of players may think, oh, I need to raise and see how strong he is and things like that. And for me, it's exactly the opposite. This is a good spot for me. I don't really care about that 160 chips out there in the pot. What I care about at this stage is playing pots in position and looking to win some really nice pots. Um, I'm fine picking up small pots here and there, but right now with no innings, I mean, if I go from 7,050 to just add 160 chips, and I'm up to 7220, like who or 7210, like who cares? What I'm hoping to do is call and flop a set or play in position and take the pot away from my opponent. The majority of the time when I call with a small pair suited connector, I'm just going to play those for two pair or better. And if I don't hit, I just get out. Let's go on to the next hand, because what happens here is this is a profitable situation for me. I'm sure many folks have heard of like the rule of 5 and 10, and investing 5 to 10% of the effective stack size. The amount that can be won. The smaller the two stacks between you and your opponent. And in this spot, um, I really, and I'd like to say it's a rule of 5 and 7.5, so like 5% with your suited connectors, and up to about 7.5% um, with your pairs. So right here with the pair, even if he'd have raised to 200 or 300, I'm really in that. If he raised to 300 here, I'm still in that 5 to 7.5% of his stack, so I can call. It's a profitable situation for me to call, and then I just know I need to proceed with my plan post flop and not get too carried away and decide that I've put my opponent on ace king if there's no king on the board and so forth. Like, it's profitable right here to call in order to flop a set. Now I could call more, and we may see, well, probably will see some spots later, as long as my plan is to do something other than just flop my set, and take some aggressive action later. But let's save that for when we have an example. So right now, I just want to call, and I'm fine if these other guys come along. It increases the chances that somebody else may hit and pay me off if I do hit my set. And so we flop our set. and it's fantastic. Now it's 10-5-2, so we do have the potential flush draw on the board, and that's not something I'm real scared about. Interesting enough, he checks, but the reason I'm not really scared of the flush is he's gonna, for him to have two clubs and flop a flush draw, that's gonna happen about as often as I flop a set. It's around 11-12% of the time. So I think it's actually slightly lower than the 12% that you're gonna flop your set. So it's really unlikely. Sure, it's going to happen. If you play a high volume, I play a pretty high volume. I know the TPE pros, most of them play a ridiculously high volume. I'm sure many of the people watching this play a really high volume online. So you guys see these crazy things, and you see the things that everybody thinks this site's rigged and that site's rigged because of the crazy hands. Well, they're the same hands you see live, and it's just going to happen from time to time. There's these hands that look like they're just set up, and so, yeah, sure, it's statistically unlikely that I'm going to flop a set and he's going to flop a flush draw. But my goodness, with all the hands that we're all seeing, we're going to run into it. Um, but when he checks to me, I'm betting here 100% of the time. And the reason I'm betting is not because I'm scared of the clubs. It's because, well, I want to bet for value, and I also don't want that. I'm hoping I can get some value out of him in case that club comes and kills my action. If he doesn't have a flush draw, or say he was slow playing two queens or two kings, and an ace comes, then that could kill my action. So there are cards that can definitely kill my action. If he has pocket nines and he wants to just check call all the way down, hoping I don't have a 10. There's a lot of reasons that a lot of hands he could have that he would commit some more chips here. And all that said, in this case he doesn't actually. He folds and I just win the pot. But just keep that in mind because we'll probably run into it later. And I think it's something that comes up over and over again, that I don't want to hit this big hand and then just play it all sneaky. I want to, when you flop big hands, bet them and get value out of them, or at least try to. A lot of people want to try to let people catch up. Well, most of the time they're not going to catch up, and you don't know what they're holding, so you don't know if they can even hit anything that will pay you off. So just, I think most of the time I'm just going to play those pretty straightforward. I don't think there's really any interesting hands. The next